Continuation of Chapter 3, Religious Indifferentism. He brings up another reason to condemn the Masonic sects, the, quote, horrible system of indifference in the matters of religion, end quote, that they propagate, which is utterly repugnant to the natural light of reason. Quote, by means of this theory, those crafty men remove all distinction between virtue and vice, truth and error, honorable and vile action. They pretend that men can gain eternal salvation by the practice of any religion. End quote. Now, here is a clearly expressed statement that could well be meditated upon by the successors of Peter who have strayed from sound doctrine. Quote, as if there could be any sharing between justice and iniquity, any collaboration between light and darkness, or any agreement between Christ and Belial. End quote. Attacks against priestly celibacy. Coming to the fourth objective of these sects, Pius IX writes, quote, the sacred celibacy of clerics has also been the victim of conspiracy. End quote. The attack against clerical celibacy did not start yesterday. The Pope wrote this in 1846. So, it isn't new to see in our day multiple pressures being brought to bear, although today it is even by bishops in favor of the marriage of priests and the ordination of married men, in order thereby to suppress the celibacy of the clergy. Quote, indeed, some churchmen have wretchedly forgotten their own rank, and let themselves be converted by the charms and snares of pleasure. End quote. There are members of the clergy who collaborate with the Freemasons to try and destroy priestly celibacy. Quote, this is the aim, too, of the prevalent but wrong method of teaching, especially in the philosophical disciplines, a method which deceives and corrupts incautious youth in a wretched manner. End quote. The destructive doctrine of Communism. In addition to the attacks against the celibacy of priests, the Pope denounces the formidable dangers of communism. Quote, to this goal also tends the unspeakable doctrine of communism, as it is called, a doctrine most opposed to the very natural law. End quote. Already, over 100 years ago, the Pope stigmatizes the sects that originated the false and abominable doctrine of communism. He describes a century ahead of time what will come to pass with communism. With astonishing perspicacity, the popes published solemn warnings, but no one listened. The chiefs of state remained deaf, and none heeded their harsh rebukes. Even the bishops lacked the courage. And so this perverse doctrine spread so widely that events have come to pass even as Pius IX foresaw. Quote, for if this doctrine were accepted, the complete destruction of everyone's laws, government, property, and even of human society itself would follow. End quote. It could not be better expressed. What is left of the rights of men in the countries where communist governments have been established? There is no more property. It has been replaced by collectivism. As for human society, it has been replaced by slavery. Finally, the Pope describes the means taken by the sects in order to attain their goals, and especially the mass media, the press, and publishing. Quote, "To this end, finally, to omit other dangers which are too well known to you, tends the widespread disgusting infection from books and pamphlets which teach the lessons of sinning. These works, well written and filled with deceit and cunning, are scattered at immense cost through every region for the destruction of the Christian people. As a result of this filthy medley of errors which creeps in from every side, and as the result of the unbridled license to think, speak, and write, we see the following: morals deteriorated, Christ's most holy religion despised, the majesty of divine worship rejected, the power of this apostolic see plundered, the authority of the Church attacked and reduced to base slavery, the rights of bishops trampled on, the sanctity of marriage infringed." End quote. What would he say if he were alive today? In his time, the unbridled license he decries, even then undoubtedly unacceptable, was a far cry from what we know today. For example, at this time, one would have been unable to imagine the number of families destroyed by the laws instituting divorce, in violation of the holiness and indissolubility of marriage. After the introduction of the divorce legislation in Italy, thousands of divorces were filed. In France, there are between 80 to 100,000 divorces per year. This marks the complete destruction of the family. Children do not know where to turn, to the mother or to the father. They are completely abandoned. Left to themselves, children become the prey of delinquency and crimes. Thefts and children in prison follow. Here is what divorce gave rise to, the fruits of our lovely liberal society. Quote, "And many other losses for both the Christian and the civil commonwealth. Venerable brothers, we are compelled to weep and share in your lament that this is the case." End quote.